Hi, so I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the sort of stuff I've been doing since I discovered this animator thing. Yeah, since this sort of came out a couple of weeks ago. Um, I have a fairly involved live setup, so I've been using Ableton for a while. I have my sort of that routes through to Reason, so I have patches on there, so that's all wired up. Now, for some stuff, I've traditionally just, I'll have an external instrument, but actually now I'm trying some stuff where I actually send stuff out of virtual ports so that I can send it through to a processing application. Now, this processing application is something this is quite a big script for what I'm doing, but this has sort of got everything in it. So what I've got here is there's a library I've built here for my Korg microcontrol, which is this gubbins here, which is quite a nice little minimal thing, and I've written a library for it in Java, so you can see you've got access to the various parts of it, and that sort of wraps up all the boring MIDI sysx stuff, which is painful. So that you can do quite straightforward calls in processing. I can just, in the draw method, I can get the draw joystick position. I've got a number of different ways of doing listeners, but you can listen to your pad, and it is quite straightforward using an interface to just connect through pressed and released options. So what this does, so what we're doing is we're taking sound, we're taking control from this thing, it's coming into processing and it's being sent out into live, and then live is sending it to Reason, but live is also sending it back into processing where it's getting routed to things like, well, OSC messages. So hello, yeah, that's how I was going to start it actually. Look, you can see my mouse moving. That's because I'm also using the minim voice sensitive stuff. So I have this scene that I put together. You can see I can zoom in. That's actually a feature that I added myself into the code. So because Animator is open source, it means I can do little hacks like I added this code basically and some other stuff just to make it so that you can zoom the camera in and out and pan around, which is kind of what I wanted to be able to do with my joystick, just to, add a bit of interest to a really simple video. I'm trying to get them onto GitHub so that I can actually share some of these hacks and fixes and actually get involved a bit more actively in the development. But I think just because it's on its own SVN server, it makes it quite difficult to collaborate. But the idea's planted, so the sooner we can do that, the better. So I'll just take you through what I've got. So I had this idea of doing a sort of tribute to all of my favourite people. So you see, this is Charles Babbage's Difference engine. So we can see how that responds to the each note is sort of, each of those little things that sort of goes up and down. This is actually, I'm doing some quite object-oriented stuff, so that's actually a figure view, and I've got these note bones which get loaded in from an XML file, which I'll just quickly show you. Yeah, that's the XML for it. So I sort of anticipate doing a lot of different things like this. Just a little note is I don't actually write all this horrible repetitive stuff by hand. I just write a little bit of Ruby down the bottom, and then you can generate out sort of whatever systematic code you need to generate out in TextMate. So that's something like that's that. So I mean, something else, someone else I wanted to pay tribute here. Well, you see we've got some faders wired up. Mr. Raymond Scott, a hero of mine, and someone I'm trying to sort of do the sort of software version of, if you know what I mean. And then, you know, what would a stage controller be like without some popular singers? So here we've got some singers here. So I seem to have these. I'll let them wired up to. Now I've got this very direct control over it, and the other thing I've done is the other thing we wanted to do. I don't want to feel like I'm just directly manipulating them by pressing the buttons. It feels a bit disrespectful to be controlling Raymond Scott's movements, but I've actually built an iPod Touch OSC transmitter, and I have this idea that I'll kind of wave the iPod Touch like a baton to kind of count in the music, and then we'll sort of start to get we'll sort of start to get some interesting things like that. I want it to sort of feel like it's a band that I'm sort of conducting rather than just some robots that I'm controlling. I mean, there's obviously a lot of depth to this, so I think I'll probably break this down into smaller parts and just explain the bits and pieces of it. And as time goes on, I'll come up with new. I'll just maybe do some tutorials, but just let me. I'm using Live API as well, which you can see in action here. So to trigger the clips, I'm actually, you know, I've got this working, so I could probably do a little tutorial on how to wire that up. So that goes through virtual channels, and then because you didn't used to have enough control over Live, but I'll wrap this up, and then I'll do a little performance. It's not going to be anything special, but you can sort of see where I'm coming from, and you can see how complex the sort of wiring is. So my next sort of stage is to really have these processing scripts to be very small, and the idea is I can switch during a live set into a different routing of everything. So these buttons on this one might be kind of like, I might have the keyboard going to, you know, like the Gabba kicks on one track, but then I might want it to be going to something that does this auto accompaniment thing on the next track, and then I've got my I'm sort of turning on effects, triggering different beats. So processing is sort of the central point where just everything goes through processing, comes out, then that allows me to hook in and control stuff like this, and it just means that we can start to get to something which is a lot more, makes the most of a very minimal setup, and we can do some really interesting stuff. So anyway, yeah, I hope you enjoy the little performance I've done. I think I've rambled a lot because there's no time on this one, but thanks for listening, and yeah, questions would, let me know what you think.